The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. I do hope you are continuing to stay safe and well, particularly with the new safety guidelines announced recently. Thank you for joining the third in our weekly webinars, which will be running through May and June. Please look out for further communications on these and register where you feel the topic is most appropriate or applicable for your business. Today's webinar is Under the Covers on Fujitsu PRIMEFLEX for Nutanix Enterprise Cloud. Your presenter will be Usman Chowdhury. This session is being recorded. You will be on listen-only mode. You will have the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the session. I can see we've got a mixed bag of partners on the line. Obviously we're unsure of your levels of understanding of this technology. So do feel free to ask questions. We have got 15 minutes or so at the end of the session. And obviously we would really like you to maximise from this session. Please either raise your hand or post your questions in the chat box. And if you experience any sound or audio issues, again, just raise your hand to make me aware, although we're not envisaging any. Without further ado, I will pass over to Usman. Usman, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much, Melanie. Much appreciated.
I will hand over on mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this session and taking the time to do so. So let's get started. So you've obviously you're familiar with the whole range of products that we do here at Fujitsu, from client devices used for edge computing, the tablets, laptops, PCs and workstations, and that connects the business to the internet. And then that's joined by our networking capabilities, where we have our own P-switch from Fujitsu, and then we also partner with Extreme and Broadcom for networking as well. And in terms of compute, you're familiar that our server lineup from Fujitsu is known as Primergy, and that contains a range of 1U and 2U servers. And then we have our storage capabilities, and that delivers not only file and block level storage, but also delivers some backup to disk appliances as well. And we also have our backup to tape stuff. And then we also have a number of key strategic partnerships with a number of ISVs, as well as NetApp on the storage side of things. And PRIMEFLEX essentially brings all of this together in some way, shape or form. So PRIMEFLEX is our portfolio of integrated solutions, which is at times integrating the networking, the compute and the storage. And then outside of that, we can deliver data protection as well as client devices to complement our PRIMEFLEX capabilities. And then in terms of where we deploy PRIMEFLEX and what are the kind of use cases for our integrated systems portfolio, well, it varies. So it's suited for robo sites, remote office, branch office, such as schools or remote locations for existing organizations. And then smaller small to medium-sized enterprises as well. PRIMEFLEX also is configurable, and it's a solution for large enterprises and global organizations, as well as corporate organizations. And then PRIMEFLEX also hooks into all the different clouds that are available. So PRIMEFLEX enables you to either deploy an on-premise private cloud. It can also allow you to be part of a hybrid cloud and allow you to move and manage and migrate virtual machines and applications from your on-premise cloud over into a public or a hosted cloud. Now, we're going to focus today on PRIMEFLEX for Nutanix Enterprise Cloud. And this essentially takes our Primergy servers, which are customized configurations for running Nutanix's Acropolis operating system on them, and it stacks these Primegy servers together, and it connects using either the customer's existing switches or switches from Fujitsu or Extreme, and it delivers that as a single solution with a single support contract to your customers. So now let's dig a bit deeper. So from Nutanix's perspective, they deliver cloud services on premise. It's like having all your AWS or Azure services available from within your own data center, but you can move and migrate applications into the cloud as well to create that hybrid approach to infrastructure. So you can also expand your Nutanix cluster very simply just by adding extra Primegy server nodes. That seamlessly gives you additional compute and storage just through a few simple clicks. And you can manage all of this through a single pane of glass, a single interface known as Prism. And Prism also gives the administrator deep insights into their environment and the usage. There's something on there which is as soon as you log in, you're confronted by a dashboard, which is the home screen, and that dashboard gives you a visual representation of the number of VMs you have, what your latency is like, what consumption of your cluster is like. So it's very intuitive in the way it's designed. And all the features and functionality from Nutanix, which have different names. So they're Calm, which delivers self-service provisioning and moves VMs from between your on-premise to off-premise environments. And then Nutanix's Beam, which delivers cloud cost analysis and application or data governance. It wraps all of these Nutanix features and functionality into Prism. So if you have any of these add-on modules, if that's how you want to sort of view them, you would still deploy them and manage them from that single user interface. However, if you want to customize the environment, you can do that using Nutanix's APIs and their RESTful API tools. So Nutanix absolutely allows you to integrate how you see fit for your organization. And Nutanix was born out of the data centers of Google and Facebook, which have hundreds or thousands of nodes all networked together, working as a single cluster. And Nutanix is no different. It's exactly that. It's loads of Primegy servers stacked together, working as one single blob or pool of storage and compute. So it's just like Google and Facebook, Nutanix is no different in that it's designed to handle failures and recover automatically. So within that blob or pool of storage, you will have at least 2 copies. Sometimes you can set it to have 3 copies, RF2 or RF3, of every single piece of data that you have. So that means that if you lose one of those server nodes or a hard drive, for example, you always have another copy on the cluster. So there's zero downtime to any user and there's no interruption. And that is the kind of design designed to handle failure that Nutanix has implemented. In terms of the case for Nutanix from a technology perspective, why would you want to look at Nutanix? So from a competitive perspective, when we look at the hyper-converged infrastructure landscape, there's a number of vendors out there, SimpliVity, vSAN, and then Cisco have their HyperFlex. Nutanix, first of all, has the lion's share of that market. So of the HCI market, according to IDC, Nutanix has 51% of the share. And that's for a very good reason, that customers are going and choosing Nutanix proactively as opposed to the other solutions out there. And some of the reasons. So It supports multiple hypervisors, so whether your customer's running VMware or they want to use Nutanix's Acropolis hypervisor, they have the freedom to do that. In fact, they can actually run both if they want to. So it gives you that flexibility. It also allows you to reduce your VMware licensing costs by, for example, if customers know and love VMware and they're running that on their production site and don't want to do away with it, that's fine. But for their DR, they could have AHV, Acropolis Hypervisor, running, and that will reduce and lower their VMware costs. But at the same time, it will allow them to try out AHV and see if it's fit for purpose for what they want to try and do. So you can replicate from VMware to AHV, and you can also migrate from VMware to AHV and back. And that's all done using their tool known as Move, which used to be called Extract. You can also do in-place conversions of VMs. So if a VM is ESXi, you can convert that to be an AHV VM and take it back again. So this is pretty unique capability that is exclusive to Nutanix and what they've managed to achieve. And AHV is based on their own KVM based hypervisor. And then what Nutanix also do, another add-on or bolt-on, is their software-defined networking, which has microsegmentation and other features in there, known as Flow. And again, that's something that can be brought to bear. In terms of what kind of protocols and data Nutanix can handle, well, Nutanix can handle all your file, and we're going to go into file in a bit more detail. It can handle object-based, it can handle bare metal, so even physical servers which are not virtualized can still benefit and hook onto a Nutanix environment. So it can cater for all your workloads. And if you're looking at some of the gaming customers, for example, which have a lot of DevOps, it does support and deliver container-based services such as Kubernetes and Docker. And really, Nutanix's vision is around cloud is to converge clouds into a single user interface and ability to manage that. And Calm allows you to do that, and we'll talk a bit more about that as well. And Nutanix is built on this premise of one-click simplicity. So whether it's to spin up a VM, whether it's to allocate resources to a VM, whether it's to convert a virtual machine from one hypervisor to another, it's all built on that key design principle known as one-click simplicity. Given it may be a couple of clicks, but the idea is to reduce the amount of clicks that an administrator has to go through to achieve a task. So there's 4 major aspects for selecting the right vendor, and this is where Fujitsu comes in. So although Nutanix is certified on a number of different hardware platforms out there, when you select a partner, these are some of the key things that you want to look at is OEM. So OEM is so having the ability as an OEM like Fujitsu, we have certified kit within Nutanix's data center, and that allows us to do a number of things. Not only do we have collaboration around engineering of new features and functionality, but it also means that if your customer has an issue which we haven't seen the likes of before and need to replicate, or Nutanix need to replicate, then they can do that because they have Fujitsu kit within their data centers to be able to do that. And then delivering a single point of contact, so a single support contract, which means essentially that whether your customer has an issue with the Nutanix side of the software or they have an issue with the hardware from Fujitsu, it doesn't turn into this bun fight between the two around whose issue it is to resolve, because Fujitsu will always be the customer's single point of contact for all issues related to that solution, regardless of whether it's the hardware or the software. And then delivering one-click updates. So from Nutanix's perspective, you can deliver BIOS and firmware and software updates for Nutanix by clicking accept changes, for example, one click, and it will update the Nutanix element. And then we have integration with Fujitsu's ISM. So we were able to deliver all our updates from through ISM, and then also the device naming convention, and we'll talk a bit about this on another slide. So let's dig a bit deeper as to why select Fujitsu for your Nutanix environments. So firstly, whether your Nutanix environment is serving several different on-premise workloads and applications such as Splunk or VDI or big data or unified communications, that's all delivered on a single hardware platform from Fujitsu, our primary servers. So you need a minimum of 3 of these from a Nutanix perspective, stacked together and connected. And then we do some configurations where you can have just 2 if it's a remote office or branch office. But either way, all your workloads are served from a single platform, and that's regardless of whether it's file, block, or object. So some compelling reasons further to that is we are the world's 5th largest services organization. So highly likely your customer is not just going to be looking at a Nutanix platform for their data center. With that, they're going to be looking at backup. They may be looking at some of the stuff we spoke about in that first slide, some of the edge-based solutions. They may be looking at laptops, servers, and they may want to package all of this from one vendor, a one-stop shop, and we're able to deliver that. Where we go a step further than most of the other OEM vendors out there is our services capability around delivering something that we're focused on as an organization, is the digital transformation strategy. And as a part of this digital transformation strategy, as an organization, we have to be extremely flexible. And when I say flexible, that means working with partners that the customer wants us to work with to deliver a solution. We're able to do that. We're also able to customize our hardware for any given situation or scenario. We have the flexibility to do that. We have something called a made for you service for customers, which basically means if a customer wants their logo on the front of some of this hardware, we can absolutely do that for them. If they want a particular image loaded on the primary servers before they're shipped from the factory, we can load their custom based image onto those servers before they get shipped over onto site. And then we can also do some clever stuff around financing. So we do a U-scale model, which basically means that the customer only pays as they grow. Also, there's the reliability and system design. So one thing we're very well known for, and probably best known for in the industry, is our reliability. So everything, even from our tower-based servers that you place under your desk, we have a minimum of 4 nines availability on all of that hardware, and that's pretty incredible. And really, some of the performance numbers as well as the reliability is really achieved because we fundamentally manufacture our hardware very different from the way some of the other vendors out there do. So whereas some vendors may just take different components and put them together, different components from different suppliers, put them together and put their badge on the front. What we essentially do is manufacture everything from the motherboard up, other than the CPU, which we still manufacture the Spark processors for Oracle, and the hard drives. So in terms of performance, so we've broken over 100 world records in just the last 7 years alone, and those are around virtualization performance, so the VM mark. So if you just Google VM mark, you will see that it's a performance testing website from VMware, which shows the fastest performing x86 platforms on the market for VMware workloads. We've pretty much topped that since 2012 and continue to do so, at least most of the categories that are available there. And then we've also broken world records around database performance, business processing, our energy efficiency, but these are world records not paid for and funded by Fujitsu. These are third-party organizations which have taken Fujitsu hardware and tested it according to their own criteria. So it's certainly impartial from that perspective. So our naming convention for Fujitsu hardware, all our hardware is known as XF. So when you log a call and or when you speak with Nutanix, if you need to, although if you've brought this is a key thing. So there's two ways to purchase this as well. You can either purchase it as an appliance, in which case it's a single support contract, or you can purchase just the hardware and get your licensing, because you may have an enterprise license agreement with Nutanix. You can get your licensing from Nutanix and purchase your hardware separately. It just means you don't get that single support contract. So XF, it represents our primary servers with Nutanix on there. And then the product series can be 80, 30, or 10, or even 90, which isn't there, but just two examples there. 30 is our balanced configuration. 80 is really for enterprise apps. And we have a 90 series, which is really for in-memory databases. It's a beast of a server, quad socket server, and really certified for SAP. And then the chassis form factor. So when you see the 5, you know that's a 1 node 2U. If you see a 6, that's a 4 node in 2U. And when I say node, I mean servers. And then you have the 7, which is a 1 node in a 1U form factor. And then slots, so you have either 2.5 inch drive bays or 3.5 inch, and that's what the 0 or 5 represents. Okay, so this is essentially what the hardware is. So we have the Fujitsu XF1070, which is really ideally either 1 or 2 nodes, and that is really for remote office, branch office scenarios. And then you have the XF3070, which you saw earlier, is a balanced configuration. And there you can, it's a dual socket server, and there you can have either it configured as a hybrid, so half flash, half spinning disk, or you can have it as an all flash node. And then you can see there on your screen different variations of storage configurations. And in terms of across the board, you can have between 32 gig to 3 terabytes of memory. Everything here is configurable, so you can choose, just as you would with a primary server, you can choose pretty much your processor, how much memory you want to assign, different variations of disks, absolutely available, and we support 10 gig or 25 gig on there in terms of networking capabilities, and we support both Nutanix's Acropolis hypervisor, or you can run VMware ESXi on there. In terms of what these can scale to, you need a minimum of 3 nodes, unless you're running the XF1070, where you can have just 2 nodes, but these can scale to an unlimited number of VMs and nodes and capacity. We also offer these as storage only nodes as well, which Nutanix do, which basically means if you've got an existing cluster, you need to add more storage, but not necessarily more compute. Then we do a node which is extremely light in terms of compute, but extremely heavy in terms of storage. And just to give you an idea, in terms of raw capacity, we can achieve around 180 terabytes of storage capacity on a single configuration. However, so we offer, for example, 14 terabyte drives. However, the guidance from Nutanix is that you wouldn't want a node to go above 120 terabytes max. So everything is configurable. If you want to give your customers an idea of the kind of cost that's involved, we do now have some built for you configurations. This is t-shirt sizing, pre-configured fixed pricing. And essentially all it's designed to do is give your customers an idea of the kind of cost they would be looking at depending on what kind of configuration that you wanted to do. Each one of these configurations you can see has a different amount of CPU and memory and storage, and really the key focus here is this. So all of that translates into a headline. So for example, the XF1070 M2 entry hybrid extra small is just over 11,000 pounds RRP for a single node. Remember, you need at least 3, so you just times that by 3. These nodes are fixed. You don't need a valid deal registration to offer this price to your customers. However, if you then go to actually place an order, then you would need to put a deal registration in place for that order. But these are fixed configurations, you can't change them. If you do need to customize them, then we revert back to the build to order. So we can deliver it, yes, but it just wouldn't be a build for you solution. So as mentioned, you need a minimum of 3 nodes, but you can scale up to whatever you want to scale up to. Like I say, those switches can come either from your customer, as long as they're certified, or you can get switches from ourselves. And in terms of scalability, Nutanix as a hyper-converged platform, allowing you to scale up to whatever you want to scale up to, is pretty unique within this space. I mean, for example, if you look at Microsoft's Azure Stack HCI solution, that can go up to sort of 16 servers in one cluster, and vSAN, last time I checked, allowed 64 nodes in a cluster. That may have increased, but having unlimited number of nodes that you can scale up to is pretty impressive. So once you've sold Nutanix to your customers, there is a huge opportunity for recurring revenue. So for example, there's one customer who brought 4 nodes initially, and they've grown to over 100 in I think around 18 months. So that is, and then there's a pharmaceutical customer who had 3 nodes, then upgraded to 13, another 3, and then they ordered another 6, and now are waiting for another order. So doubling that cluster year on year. So in terms of growth of existing cluster, most Nutanix customers tend to, because of that Lego brick architecture, just add another node and it expands the storage and compute. That is the cycle or trajectory they typically end up on. And a lot of the time, because it's only purchasing 1 node at a time, they can pretty much, some organizations can get away with that in terms of just OPEX instead of CAPEX. So that can be financed pretty easily as well. So that's one opportunity. of expanding. The second opportunity is to upsell the software, the support, the consulting, the education. So remember, Nutanix's base software is AOS, Acropolis operating system, and there's loads of stuff you can sell on top of that. So there's Flow if they want to go for software-defined networking, and then although there's Prism Starter, you can upgrade them to Prism Pro, which gives them additional features and functionalities within that single pane of glass. And then you can also sell them Calm if they want to be able to move their applications and workloads seamlessly into the cloud. And then there's Beam as well for governance. And then you can cross-sell new cases as well, like backup, for example, or into other parts of an existing organization. So the potential of opportunities is huge out there. Now, speaking about file-based storage, which is another key thing from Nutanix, which we sell with our Fujitsu hardware, is its capability. If you're able to sell file-based features from Nutanix, there's a huge opportunity there to do so. So, for example, if your customer today is using dedicated NAS file servers, or they have dedicated physical servers, or they have an expensive NAS solution from, one of the OEM vendors, like one of the larger vendors out there, like EMC or HP or whoever, they can get away and be done with all that hardware and go to a software-defined approach for NAS simply by spinning up VMs in their existing Nutanix cluster. So they create 3 new VMs within their Nutanix cluster, and it will deliver these capabilities which you see on the screen for file services. So for file services, the protocol supported SMB 2.1 and 3, as well as NFS version 4, and then it also supports ICAP as well. For example, in terms of security, it hooks into a customer's Active Directory environment or LDAP environment. You can carry out file auditing and encryption. You can even do file level recovery from file level recovery by using Windows previous versions, which Nutanix is hooked into. And then natively, this also mirrors onto another Nutanix cluster as well. So the opportunity is absolutely huge. So as I said, 3 nodes minimum, get rid of that NAS infrastructure hardware that you already have, simplify it because you're going to manage your Nutanix files from the very same interface that you manage your entire Nutanix environment from today, which is Prism. And then you get all the goodness that your Nutanix environment has around self-healing, automated tiering, and you can extend those benefits over to your file environment as well. 2 ways to deploy it. You can deploy it either as VMs on your existing AOS Nutanix cluster, or you could create a new Nutanix cluster which is dedicated for files. You can tweak the performance. So when I say tweak the performance, you start with 3 VMs. You can scale to however many VMs you want. Minimum, you need 4 vCPU and 12 gig of memory per 12 gig RAM per VM, but you can increase either the RAM or the CPU based on usage and the demands of the environment. And you can increase the number of VMs as well. And there's a single namespace across your whole cluster. So a final call to action to wrap this up. If your customers want to try any of these features or functionality, there's 3 ways to do it. They can either do a free Nutanix test drive, which is available, and we can share those details with you. Even if you Google test drive Nutanix, it will come up with the information. Your customers can also download and try Nutanix free of charge. There's a community edition available out there which they can download and get used to themselves if they want to. Or they can come into our briefing center when it's safe to do so within London and Bracknell. Please engage your channel account manager, and let's qualify the opportunities using the Build for You bundles as a budget indicator to understand whether it's palatable for your customers or not. And let's get an introductory call with your customer, understand what their business strategy is. So please involve us. We're happy to have that introductory call. Let's see how we get on in terms of what their strategy is, what they want to do, what they want to achieve. And what we can do is ask them to run a data collector, which is a small agentless tool which collects purely information needed for sizing environments, not any of their application data itself. And then we can right size their environment and present back a Nutanix proposal or solution, so they know exactly how much a solution would cost them. And that's the end of this presentation. So happy to take any questions at this stage.
Thank you, Usman. Just a reminder then, we are now obviously open for questions. If you do have any, please feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you. Alternatively, you can post your question in the chat box on the panel. To leave it open for a couple of minutes or so, Usman, but perhaps you've done a really great job and everyone is fully skilled up now on Nutanix and Fujitsu.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because this was pitched as going under the covers, but it requires a lot of time, probably half a day, to go under the covers and explain files in more detail. And if anyone on this call wants deep dive training on any of this stuff, or wants to discuss any opportunities or the suitability of this solution for their customers, then please do reach out to us via your channel account manager. We're happy to help.
There's no questions at this time. There's no raised hands. So happy to leave it open for another kind of 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, no problem. That's absolutely fine.
Hold on a second. Jez, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just, in fact, when I answered it, it was, I just getting in touch via my manager then. Hello?
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you, yep.
I'll go on mute, okay?
Yeah, so I just get in touch via Amy. We've been talking to Graham Bronham about a solution. We've got a client who's got some HPs running VMware that are coming end of life. So this is of huge interest. They're going end of life probably October, November this year. So
yeah. Oh, so okay, fantastic. So yeah, absolutely, that'd be great. I can definitely hook in via Graham. That's absolutely no problem at all. That sounds good.
Excellent.
But yeah,
would I just get in touch with Amy and she'll set a call up?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you know, I'm happy to have a conversation around some of the, you know, what their strategy is stuff. If they want to hear more about a part of the solution, or even just get an overview, an understanding of Nutanix, happy to do that. So absolutely, I can get involved. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, that'd be good. Because we started off just doing level 1 support to take some pressure off their IT.
Yeah.
And now we're getting a lot more involved, assisting with patching of the servers and all the rest of it. So
fantastic.
It would be good for us to get involved, and we're quite new to the HCI bit, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys want to spend more time going over any of this internally as well, then I can also help and assist in there as well. That's not a problem at all. And then with your customer, I suppose it's fantastic because it also shows your value add if you're able to set up sessions like these and go through the technology. So that'd be great. More than happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. I don't know if I didn't manage to get your email address. I don't know if it was on the screen at the beginning, but I managed to scribble your name down.
That's fine.
I can handle. Jez, is it Amy Lishman that manages you?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll reach out to Amy, and then we'll share Usman's details. That's fine.
Yeah, good. That's brilliant.
Is that okay?
I'm off this week actually, but I wanted to do this just to catch up, and I'm glad I did. So we can get in touch next week and start the ball rolling. That'd be really good.
Yeah. I look forward to it. No, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for attending as well.
Excellent. No, thank you.
Thanks, Jez.
Cheers now.
I don't believe there are any further questions. I don't see any other raised hands. So I think that concludes the webinar session for today. Unless you have anything further to add, Usman, I will close the webinar down.
Yep, perfect. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. Please feel free to leave any feedback, and if you do have any further questions, please reach out to your partner account managers. Thank you.